Oh, hello, 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 hello. Am I on? I think I'm on there now. Um, can you hear me? There you go. Yeah, I see it now. Hi, guys. Hi, hi, hi. Um, I just found I have a technical problem an hour before I go streaming. And the video capture card malfunction, and I cannot use my video camera. So there's not zooming, no nothing. I have to use my iPhone. Now I'm shooting this with my iPhone, and the iPhone is just right in front of my face, right in my face. So it's a bit difficult for me to check the stuff, check the screen. And sorry, guys, and my mouse is not working. Let me see. Let me pull this up. Okay, that's better. Okay, because I cannot see the screen too well. Now I can see it better. Hi guys. So this is my iPhone. It is fixed. Cannot go wide and cannot go close. I tried to get it as close as possible, and as I mentioned in my last streaming, I tried to do some soldering this time, and you can see that I have the body and the floor. Now I know this is called the floor, the of the F1 car, and also the air intake, the hood parts, get out, have them out ready for soldering. And I think the first task, the easier task, is to solder the hexagon nut onto the floor. And then, if you remember last time, I used some UV glue to keep the nuts on in place. And tonight I'm gonna solder it to the floor so it's become more permanent and stay there forever. Have a stronger bond. And soldering white metal takes a bit of a special kind of solder. I I have here a bunch of different kinds of solder. The difference between these solders are all their melting point, the temperature of the melting point. This one I got from Japan, and it says here the melting point is 95 degree, so it's slightly higher than the normal white metal solder. This I got from Japan also, from a makeup company. They haven't mentioned the temperature of the solder on this particular solder, so I have no idea what temperature it is. So the only way to tell is to test it with the solder iron. And here is a stack of white metal solder I got from Telford. I went to Telford quite a few years ago, and I saw this solder, which is for white metal, is 70-degree temperature. So the melting point is 70 degrees. So I got a bunch of them. And here's what I initially got my solder from is Cars. This is a British company, and they have a range of different solders of different melting point. And here is the low temperature, 70 degree. So this is great for white metal soldering. And here's a step higher. This is 145. So the melting point is 145 degrees Celsius. And this is 188, which is 188 degree melting points. So why I use such a different melting point solders? Because when I have to do multiple solder on one piece of part, um, I tend to do it from higher temperature, then go lower uh, uh, and then go lower. Because if I solder the part or just sort of like use a small part, just do a small tack with the higher temperature to keep the part in place, then I can go to a lower temperature uh, to really solder the part together. Or if I have a multiple soldering point, then I will go from higher temperature to medium temperature, then to lower temperature. So as I progress, I won't melt the solder, which I had already solder already. So here are some of the solder that I have. So tonight, because these are all white metal, I'm gonna, and that's it's not too complicated soldering, not too many steps on the solder. So I will only use probably only use 70-degree solders. And of course, there are more. You know, in Japan there are more solders. This is for electronics, so it's a melting point is 183 to 190. This is they said it says it's for model work, scale model work, but then the melting point is 183 to 215 degrees, quite high. And what they mean by model work might be brass or copper or stainless steel. Here are the some others that this one is set for. Also says mentioned that it's for models, but um, it doesn't say the temperature here. And this is some normal solder, probably very much higher than the white metal 70-degree temperature. And another thing that another material we need for soldering is flux. And here is a flux that actually produced by a solder company in Japan. It's Goods. Goods also is the solder iron that I have here with the solder station. I'll show you the solder iron, but I cannot show you the solder station because it's being plugged in and sitting that far away from at the corner there. So in the future, I'll show you the soldering station. It's a soldering station which start from 0 degree to I think 500, 600 degree maximum. And it's difficult to find a solder station that can start at 0 degree, which means you can set a very, very low soldering temperature. And this flux is extra strong. It's that strong strong acid. It's not only good for copper or brass, it's also good for stainless steel. So this is a very powerful flux. And I usually would like to put the flux into a separate container, and like a plastic container here. I squeeze a little bit out from there. And and then I will apply the flux to the parts with a brush. So I'll set this aside. And then for the solder, I like to because this is too thick, and if you use the solder iron to melt it, you get a big blob of solder on your iron. So my what I like to do is to cut the solder into very, very small pieces, because the least solder you put on the parts, the best, as long as that's enough to solder the two parts together. So I will cut the solder out into small sliver. This is even that is too large a piece. I need to cut this even smaller. Smaller the better. Okay, here are the solder. I cut it into very small pieces, and you can see that a small sliver can go a long way. And there are a few things, few points about soldering. First of all, to solder these two parts together with the solder, it actually needs the both both parts of metal to go up to the same degree as the solder. That means the best or the strongest bond between these two parts with the solder will be raising both of the metal in up to at least 70 degrees Celsius. And then, which is the melting point of this solder, then the solder will automatically melt into the gap between these two parts. Now, even though it says its melting point is 70 degree, because of the large area of the metal, you usually need to go up a lot higher. You need to set the soldering iron to much higher temperature, because once you put the solder iron onto the metal part, heat starts to dissipate all over the metal pieces. So the larger the metal pieces, the higher temperature you probably need to set your soldering iron to. 70 degree wouldn't, solder parts together, even though it's the melting point of the solder. You need to bring these two metal parts up to a certain temperature, or at least 70 degrees, so that the solder will float by itself into the into the gap. So actually, now I'm switching on my solder station, and all it takes is about 2 seconds to reach the temperature. Now it's already up to the temperature which initially set, which is 280 degrees. It may be too hot, so I need to set it lower. I need to lower it. So maybe my experience is 180 degrees. So I'm going to lower the temperature of the solder iron to 180 degrees. Okay. Now it's dropping its temperature to 180 degrees. It takes a bit longer to lower the temperature, but it takes a really fast to raise the temperature of the solder iron. Here is the station for the solder iron, and the solder iron is like a pen. The solder tip of the solder iron and the handle is the distance is very, compared with other solder iron, this is very close, so that you can control the tip of the solder iron very easily, and you don't have to dangle it like from far away. And these are different tips. That has a hole to store them, and you can see that I have quite a few different shapes and sizes. And initially, I thought always like everybody thinks the same way. It's like for soldering small parts, you get a small tip as possible. So I have this, but finally or eventually, I find out that this is quite not as useful. I mean, if I'm soldering two tiny little pieces of brass photo etch, and it will work, but if I'm going to solder this large piece of metal, I probably need a larger tip like this. I don't know if I can see the shape. And the flat surface can really heat up the parts a lot better. And also these tips can be, I can change these tips even when the solder iron is very hot, because all you need to do is just use this little button to shove the tip out, and then with this plastic part which you can handle, it's not hot at all, you can take that out and put it in, and then you can change the tip quite convenient. So now I have the solder iron heat up to 180 degrees, and I will put some flux to the area where I want to solder. In here, okay. It never hurts to put a lot more. I'm not sure 180 degrees is hot enough, but I'll give it a. You will know when we put the iron onto it, and then I will get a small sliver of solder. And then put it into the place where I want to solder. Now, once I put the solder iron onto the metal part, it's going to get hot. So, for just in case, I'll put on my thick cotton workman's glove, and then okay, I put the iron onto the metal part, which needs to be soldered together, so that the heat will move onto the metal parts. Hopefully get the metal up to the degree 180 degrees. May not be hot enough. See, I don't think it's hot enough, so I need to raise the temperature a bit more. 200. I don't know whether you guys can see it, but the solder already melt onto the gap. Can you see it? The solder actually sip into the gap instead of a block on the outside of the parts. So the solder is now the part is fixed to the floor of the model. But I have moved the nut a bit from the place. I should have put the screw on before I solder. Anyway, I'll move it back on there. Anyway, sorry, I should have put the screw onto the nut before I get let's get a screw out. Yeah. Okay, let's do it again. Put the glove back on. Okay, see the solder had sift into the gap between the hexagon nut and the floor of the model. So 200 degrees is the right temperature for soldering and this tip, these two parts to solder this part together with 70-degree solder. I hope I haven't soldered the screw onto the, the nut. No, see. Okay. See, okay. Now we have a strong, very strong bond between the hexagon nut and the floor. And because this hexagon nut is, I think it's stainless steel, so the stainless steel strong flat really works well with the these two parts. Now, second part I want to solder is this air intake part onto the main body of the car. So of course I can hold the part in place with my hand, but it's a bit danger because it might be the parts may get too hot. So the best I have here, what I have here is some heat resistant tape. I will use this to tape the part onto the two parts together, and then I'll hold it with my hand with this, keeping the two parts together. Now, this kind of tape you can get it from an electronic store and all that. But before that, sorry, to too in a rush. Before that, you should clean the area where the parts to be soldered. I use a wire brush just lightly to clean up the parts, get rid of the oxidized layer of the metal. And then I don't have to do it too have to take the, so you don't have to clean it to too much of extent because the flux will do the job for you. But it's better to get rid of the very top layer of oxidation. And then tape the thing in place. Now, because this is quite a large area to put solder on, and also the body is quite large a piece of metal, and you probably need to use some very much higher temperature to get the parts up to the right temperature. So what I like to do is tack the part onto the body first with slightly higher temperature solder. So I use the car number 145. Let's get a very small sliver out. Again, okay, just a little bit. And tack the part in place. Make sure you remember which is the higher temperature one. Okay. These are the higher temperature ones. And again, put some flux on. Make sure the parts lined up well. Okay, my soldering station had went to sleep, so I had to wake him up. Now let me see if 200 degree is hot enough. Well, actually, it's not hot enough. Only melt onto the solder iron. is hot enough, so I move it up to 200, 220 degree. Only tacked on the surface of the parts, so it's not a very not a very strong bond. Let's get the actually it's not hot enough. Uh, you can see that the solder hasn't melted into the gap, but it's okay. I'm just trying to tack the parts together, and now it's switch it down to 200 degree, and then now it's the solder with the 70-degree solder. Might be too large the piece. Keep my hand steady. Okay. And this area is a bit tricky. Let's get a smaller piece of solder. See, I don't want to fill that hole there, and guess it's okay now. Probably need a bit more solder here. Guess it's okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Trying to fill the gap. Okay. So that gap has been filled. Now the other side. I probably need a smaller tip for the very tip of the air intake there. So I will switch the tip to solder there, and probably need a bit more solder. That was my solder. Let's see, more solder there. Let's do the other side. A bit more because the solder is filling up the gap. And if the solder is filled all over the gap of the two parts, then you have a very strong joint. One piece more. Okay, then okay, looks good. Let me clean out a bit of the flux. Okay, switching the and let's switch to a smaller tip. This is this is very simple, but easy to replace the tip. It's already up to the temperature, very fast. Okay, let's do the tip of the so this is instead of a strong joint, I actually just want to fill up the gap with solder. Okay. If you can see it. So the gap is largely filled by the solder. And now, before I clean up the joint with sanding, I really should wash this part in water for soak it for some time before sanding the seam out. Now, after that, next I need to replace this spine with thinner metal sheet so that it's more scale more scale thickness, and I really should soak this part and also this part with water. Let me go and get a container filled with water. I'll be back. Okay. So I really should sit them in the water for quite a bit of time to clean up the flux, because the flux is it's a mild acid, so it will eventually hit into the metal. So I need to let it soak up for quite some times. So it's not much I can do now other than waiting for this for the for the flux to be washed out. And so the next major thing needs to do is to replace the thin spine on the back of the body. So I guess not much I can do now. And of course, if you look at the other one I've done, this is the back of the car, the spine being replaced by thinner metal sheet. And then also the support for the front wing is actually soldered to the nose of the body. And that will need to do that, we will need to put the body or the whole car onto the jig, which I showed you last time. Jig, need to put it on the jig to make sure the wing is straight. I usually glue the support onto the wing with super glue, and then make sure everything aligns well up, then solder the two support onto the nose of the car, and then put the whole thing in acetone so to melt the super glue and take the wing off, so that when we do final assembly, the wing is straight and perpendicular to the car body. So here's what I will do next time. And tonight is a quick one. It's about an hour, 15 minutes, which is some simple soldering. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I will let this soak up, clean up all the flux, make sure there's no residue left onto the metal parts. And then next time I come back, I will start converting the back of the car. And let's call off tonight. I wish. Hi, Will. How are you? Chucky, how are you? Oh, this I don't know what you call in Cantonese. Well, it's you can get it from electronic store, and I think you can also find it in that place. You know that place, that internet place. Taobao. Okay, you can find this in Taobao. I don't know what they call it. Heat resistant tape. I buy it from the shop. I didn't order it on the internet. Anyways, let's. I have to. I think I need to call off today and let this clean up, and then next time I'll come back, I will clean up the joint and show you. We'll see whether the gap has been filled with solder. If not, then I will fill that up with putty, or with surfacer or something. and then next time we'll replace the spine of the body, and then we'll fix the front wing and all that. Okay. So let's call tonight. Because of the technical problem, I cannot switch angle with different camera. I need to check my video capture card whether it is still working. And tonight is short one. Please watch for my post on YouTube. I'll come back tomorrow night with something with reviewing a very interesting kit. I'm sure you all will like it. So keep an eye on my post, and let's call it tonight. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time, and have a good one. Okay. Good night.